Okay, P1-12. We're increasing the complexity a bit. The reality, though, is that we are going to start early looking through the noise. There's a lot of things going on here, but the geometry as it is not that complex. Symmetry is our friend again. It gives us the note here, object is symmetrical about the center line. We're going to have a linear pattern where we went in X and Y on the last one, and I ran into that problem with the center line having conflict with the center point of the circle relations. I don't think we're going to see that here. So there's a lot of dimensions and certainly some more things going on. This is in inches, so I don't see it on the grouping, but just the format. No, it's saying it's in millimeters. So these are going to be some weird numbers, and this part is really small if we stay with millimeters. So what I'm looking at, just to start the conversation about fractional and standard dimensions, I would look at the 0.50 as half an inch, and the 875 is 7/8 of an inch. These numbers don't really amount to anything, so not too much there. The 0.75, 0.94 comes out to 15 sixteenths, 0.69, 11 sixteenths, 1 and 5 sixteenths, 13 sixteenths. There's a lot of numbers going on here that are pretty darn close if you recognize the fractions. And to me, they're just numbers. When you get to a certain point that you've used these enough, you've seen them a bunch of times, then it really doesn't matter. You kind of speak in both languages of metric or inch. So I'm going to go with the front plane. I opened up my millimeter part because it says it's in millimeters, and I'm fine with that. This will also be a good optional item to look at what happens if I did change my mind and want to make this inches. So horizontal infinite length. We went center line, and then insert line pops up in our property manager. I'm telling it that I want a horizontal for construction infinite length. All right, so when we come back out here, I kind of clicked, so I think, well, we're going to check. I probably ended up with two of those. I was going to say, let me just do a Control Z since I was pushing buttons, and I'm going to hold down the Control button and just make that coincident. All right, so if we're going to do the click this time, I'm going to click. I'm kind of looking at those numbers, but tell you, this thing got really small with that point with those numbers. So over, up. I do want to be careful. So let's go back. I'm going to go back into my line, and that was my first inference line. And I kind of drag back over and I got my arc. So since I was messing around, I got my continuous arc. Well, I didn't want to lose that one, so I Control Z. All right, so there's some things that can go on that get kind of weird. All right, so there's my inference line, and it's showing me parallel. That is probably one of the easiest inferences to get that you probably didn't want and will cause you to be over-defined later on. All right, so as we get more complex in the geometry, we're going to have to watch out for some of those. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the dimension. I'll fill up the screen here. And I'm going to go with the 0.5. And we can start adding in, and that jump, I think it probably will flicker on the video, was taking something really big and shrinking it down to almost nothing in millimeters comparatively. So 1.92 and 2.43. And this time I'll grab the object since it's not on the angle. Let's see, 3.35. So this is a process of elimination that we're going to go through a bunch of times. That start somewhere, work through it, try to do the accounting, check things off the list as you're getting them done, and 5.5, and then kind of diagnose and figure out what's going on after the fact. All right, so 0.81, and would expect that to jump up a little bit. And then we're going to go to 1.31, and then we'll go down to 0.69. Oh, actually, we need to go 0.69. I'm going to keep hitting escape. Yep, escape one more time. All right, so the reason that we have a smart dimension, I'm going to use the scroll wheel mouse to zoom up. And the smart dimension says, depending on which way you drag, determines the result. So if I'm back over here and I get a little closer to the line, then I get a linear distance. If I go straight up, then I will get a horizontal. And if I come straight out, okay, maybe not that much. Now I lost it. There we go. Okay, straight out somewhere. Messed with it too much, but then we can get the 0.69. All right, so that looks pretty good. And let's see, what did we have for depth? All right, so those are pretty much, oh, my Windows is jumping around there. So the 0.69, 0.81, and then on this side, we're going to have the 0.28, the 0.65, and the 1.46. So we got to pay attention. That's one of the things that gets me quite a bit is when we're doing kind of like chain dimensions that will sneak up on me is where are you starting from and where do you intend to end up. All right, and then we'll come back to there and 1.46 and okay. So in this case, because of the complexity, I'm a little bit more concerned about mirroring this before I have it fully defined. So since it's fully defined, when I mirror this, I have a better shot of everything working out. So if I go right to left, everything gets selected, including the dimensions. It should not mirror the dimensions, but I do have all of the geometry. So if I went left to right and got my object geometry and went into mirror, that would be the case where I'd have to come back and pick my axis of symmetry. So let's go ahead and put in the circle, and I will dimension. All right, let's get some numbers, 0.94 and then 5 times the 0.75. So that was our half-inch dimension, and since I clicked out of it, I'm just going to click once in that selection box, 0.5, enter. I should still be in dimensions, so I can put in the 0.94. All right, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So they gave us the spacing, but we're going to have a total of 6 instances. So right click and a select, and I'm going to do the linear sketch pattern. We're going by 0.75, and does it tell me number of instances? So I'm going to try the number of instances at 6. All right, so this is going to be one of those center line on top of a center line, but I don't expect it to cause any real problems. All right, so total number of instances versus total number of spaces. All right, so they're giving us a spacing of 5 times and a 0.75 distance between each item. So we're going to go ahead and accept that. And if I'm not sure about that other center line, my selection, is it going to let me do it? Yeah, it's kind of going over the regions, so I'm going to turn off the regions so I can get in there. All right, so I can see the center line, the 2 circles, the instance count, and somewhere it put a 0.75. Oh, it put it way up there. Okay, I'm not going to go search for that. We'll just accept it that there's a 0.75 out there. All right, so let's go ahead and extrude. And our thickness we said was 875. And we have our piece, so we'll save that. And then this is going to be P1-12. Throw some initials on it and save.